Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to be reviewing the COVID-19 crisis on social media, and we're going to be using Social Studio to do it. So let's just dive in. So we're going to start off today with some quick introductions. Then we're going to jump straight into Social Studio. And really the plan is that we're going to really look into what the social universe is saying, all about coronavirus and related topics. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive and sit on that for a while. We're actually running this webinar every week. And the reason is because the conversation is changing and it's live, it's happening. So this isn't like a pre-canned presentation. We're actually going to go in and both of us, for the first time, we're going to look at this and see what's going on. So then I am going to wrap up with how to listen. So just some advice on actually what to do to actually take advantage of this, and then we'll go through some questions. Great. So to introduce myself, for those that don't know me, my name is Leonard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AF Digital. I'm 6-time Salesforce certified and constantly working on my learning journey. I'm ex-IBM and ex-Vodafone, so I've had a lot of business analysis and a bit of project management experience. And really deep expertise in social listening and crisis management. The reason this is my specific specialization is because this is actually how we started the business. We're actually, the original part of Marketing Cloud was Radian6, and we were one of the very early partners. And you can see a photograph of me. This was maybe 8 years ago, presenting to a large media company in the Philippines to maybe 1,000 people, talking about how social media listening works and how you can measure stuff. So this has been a really interesting conversation we've been having for years. My company, AF Digital, are also on the Salesforce Partner Advisory Board. So we meet once a year in the US, and we're on the board with 11 other partners, and those include big partners like Deloitte and Publicis. And so about AF Digital, we're a Salesforce partner. We're a gold consulting partner. We're also a Salesforce.org registered partner as well, which is the NFP and higher ed side of the business. We're a multi-cloud partner as well, which is a bit unique. So we're across sales, service, marketing, and community cloud. We're also have certifications and other stuff as well, like Datarama, which is quite a unique product, and Salesforce.org. We also have a range of ISV partners. So if there is something that you're looking to kind of connect or add into your Salesforce, we've got a few recommendations. And really our value proposition is to help with that kind of advisory around customer experience, marketing, and technology, actually implementing transformational projects. So once you buy technology, we can help set it up. And then we've got TeamX, which is short for Team Extension, and it's a hybrid managed service. So it's hybrid, meaning that it's a cross between a marketing agency and a technology consulting company. So we're really a kind of partner of the future, and we're here to help you. And I guess going back to our roots, when we started the business, this was one of our very early clients, Meralco, and they're the largest energy provider in the Philippines. What they had was this big struggle with typhoons and power outages. And every year there were big crises that affected millions of people. So what they did is they leveraged the power of Social Studio to get kind of ahead of the game and really understand what was going on in the crisis. So, and we worked very closely with them to determine, what is a crisis? Like, how do you measure it? How do you rank your different crises? How do you articulate what a crisis is in terms of data volume? And so this is where we use Radian6 to really understand the volume and the intensity and the sentiment of that crisis. We also help them with a crisis playbook, which is just a procedure document for what to do in a crisis, which is something every organization should have, because social is a great channel to not only listen to, but it's also great to proactively engage with your fans at scale without a lot of cost. And then finally with Meralco, we also implemented a dark site, which was a microsite, a little website. There's a picture of it here. And this was 8 years ago, remember. And this was a site set up to specifically handle high volume traffic around crisis situations. And it was also a dumping ground for Meralco to put all of the latest up-to-date information so that they could deflect calls from their contact center. We also, there's a fun side of social as well. So this is a great example where we work with Stubbies and we're able to listen in for things like beer, sports, you know, those kind of cultural iconic activities that are associated with Stubbies. Stubbies, for those that aren't from Australia or New Zealand, are short shorts from the 70s that were super popular and made a bit of a comeback. So AF Digital partnered with Stubbies to actually help them bring the brand back. And we did this with very smart social listening and engagement. And that drove traffic to the e-com, and that was a great comeback. Great, and then generally, so about AF Digital, we also have a lot of experience across industry as well. And the great thing is that you can kind of bring so many use cases across. You know, there's so many things to learn from one industry to the other. So I think this is a real value that we bring. Great, so let's dive across and go straight into a live demo of Social Studio. So I'm just going to change the screens. Okay. Great, now you should be looking at Social Studio. So this is Social Studio for those that haven't seen it before. It allows you to kind of manage multiple things. There's a lot you can put in here. I have set up a specific workspace for Corona, COVID, and I'm going to navigate into this. So this allows me and all of my teams to kind of go in here. This is my publishing calendar, and if we have a look at this, so Social Studio, stepping back, sorry, it has three major features: publishing, engagement, and analytics. So, and I'm not going to spend much time in anything except analytics. I am going to whiz through and just show you. So this is the publishing side of it. It allows you to manage all of your social channels in the one place. And if you have a lot of these, it can get confusing. And the whole idea is that it should allow you to, well, it should prevent you from having to log into a lot of different social channels and eventually forgetting about one. And this is great because I can filter here very easily. And I can view it in all sorts of different ways that allow me to collaborate with my team effectively on that. So no more Excel social calendars. Also, it's got a really powerful engagement function, which allows you to put all of your channels in the one place so that you can really manage everything that's going on. Oh, great. So I've got my Facebook wall, Messenger, no one's messaged us recently, Twitter, there's some stuff coming in. And then we've got listening set up for engagement. So this is actually listening in for anyone talking about AF Digital and COVID-19. And this is great because I can go through and I can engage with these posts. I can mark them as closed, or I can reply to them or retweet them, whatever I want to do. It's really all here to manage and really across all of my social channels. Great. So yeah, this is kind of the engagement side. So in a crisis, this is really powerful because I can use this tool to make sure I've got a full awareness of everything. And as I go through, I can also use things like macros to apply automations. And I don't know why that happened. But yeah, so this applies automations to a post so that I can kind of speed up my workflow as I go through and close these out, especially if I've got a lot of things to deal with. Yeah, so this is engagement. What I really want to focus on is the analytics side. So the analytics side, it is all about social listening, but also it's about bringing in the data from your social channels as well. So you can also report on your Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn performance, etc. What we're going to focus on is really the social listening aspect. So before I dive in and show you a report, I'm going to show you how it's set up in the back end. So if you look at, this is my admin section of Social Studio, and I'm just going to search for the topic profile. So a topic profile, for those that don't know, is it is a set of keywords. It's really a topic. So, or a grouping. And then within a topic profile, you have keyword groups. So a keyword group is a subtopic. And within the keyword group, you have your keywords. And for every keyword group, you have contains and excludes. So there's three things. So what keywords am I looking for? What is my and condition to these keywords being found? And then what keywords should I exclude? And the logic is I'm looking for any post on social media or any of the other billions of sources that Salesforce pick up. Is there the words corona used? Or is the word coronavirus used? Or is the word COVID-19, etc.? And so it's going to be, does Corona and AFD cares? Does Corona and AF Digital? Does Corona and, and so on and so forth, until I found all of the posts that pick up these combination matches. It's not rocket science. It's quite straightforward. It takes a little practice, but it's pretty easy to set up. And this is what I'd encourage, well, this is what you need to understand to kind of take the value away from what I'm going to show you. Because there are things that we've set up. If I can just zoom in to one of my topic profiles. Great, so we can see here, and this is what I'm going to show you today, is I'm listening for coronavirus. So naturally, coronavirus, COVID-19, I've taken out the Corona Bear posts, but generally it's just listening for that. I've also listened for subtopics like Corona plus education, Corona plus kindergarten, Corona plus professor. So that allows me to get a count of all of the education-related COVID-19 messages, and so on and so forth. So I've done it for job losses, quarantine, self-isolation, sick, testing, all sorts of relevant topics that we're going to kind of look into today. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready to see it? Okay, so this is it. This is the last 30 days of social media. When I say social media, I actually mean internet. So a large portion of it is social media. If you look at the count, there's 536 million posts. These are individual records of someone that has said something about coronavirus over the last 30 days. 92.9% of that happened on Twitter. So that's very astounding. Almost 500 million, 498 million on Twitter. YouTube is 5.3%, so a lot smaller, but considerable size, 28.1 million posts on YouTube alone. And these are posts or replies. So it could be a YouTube reply. Forums as well, forum replies, blogs, 1.7 million, Facebook, 1.5 million. Facebook is a relatively closed network, and it's not that open to anyone listening to it. So this is kind of just the number of publicly available posts, but there's probably a larger number, much larger, of private posts that can't be accessed publicly. And you could almost say it would be the same or more than Twitter potentially. But that's private, so we don't need to worry about it. The good thing about what's public is that it's indicative of the world, right? So you can make some assumptions about what the entire world is feeling, because this is a relative sample size per population. Great, okay, so that's the volume, 536. Last week when I did this, last Tuesday at this time, it was 489 million, I think, from memory. So it's actually the rate of posts in the last 30 days has gone up considerably by about 40 million. If we look at our share of voice, so one thing I've done with this is to understand the size of this whole chaos. I'm comparing coronavirus as if it's a brand against Google and Apple as brands. So, because when I Googled what are the most popular brands in the world, Google and Apple were it. So Apple is orange, Google is green, coronavirus is this dark blue color. So that's 91.6% share of voice. Share of voice is like a marketing metric that we use for social. Let's take coronavirus out. You can see that Apple is beating Google 63.1%, but totally dwarfed in conversation. everyone's talking about coronavirus compared. So that's really interesting. I am going to just go down and elaborate a bit further on that. So we've actually got Apple and Google down here. This is breaking down into what's going on with Apple. 31 million posts. Twitter, 80% is on Twitter. They've got a large YouTube audience. Actually, so do Google. They've got quite big comparatively on Google compared to the 5.3 with Corona. It's quite interesting. And if we look at the sentiment, so we've got for Apple, it's about 30% positive, 18.5 neg. I just shortened that then. I don't usually say that. Google is about the same, 28.8, 20%, and about 50% neutral. So that's it's pretty similar actually between both brands. And that was about the same as what we saw last week. If we look at Corona, so the very interesting thing is it's got the same amount of positive mentions as these other brands, almost exactly the same. As a brand, it's going pretty well for positive mentions. If we look at the negative though, obviously that's a lot higher, 42.8% compared to the 18 or 20. So it's about twice as negative. People are twice as negative about coronavirus as they are about these two major brands that everyone loves. Like, it's not like these guys are bad brands, they're very loved brands. So you can kind of see what's going on here. I think the other thing that's very interesting across is that it's polarizing. Like, there's a lot of negative, a bit more negative than positive, 40 to 30%, but it creates a very compelling conversation. You can see that, I mean, these are the top 50 words that are talked about with Apple and Google. Let's look up at Corona. So we've got Trump, virus, hope. I love that word. I love seeing positive words here because maybe that's an indication of that 30% positive as people just, sharing hope. Boris, poor old Boris, he has been admitted to intensive care this morning or overnight. I hope he comes out of it on top. Thank Quarantine Johnson. I'm not sure about Johnson. So, and this is really the good thing. It's a bit risky for me to click on anything because this is 500 million mentions. So anything it kind of comes back with is great. Yeah, let's just have a little scroll through these while that's loading. Boris Johnson shanks, Cameron steps back. A lot of this is really about Boris Johnson. I might just update this to focus on influencer score. Little tip, this is a recently added sort feature. So influencer score is so important because when I click on any of these guys, I definitely want to find out the reasons why it's such a big deal. I don't want to filter through the thousands of people saying silly things, So let's just have a look. So we've got positive, I assume that's a test. World Health Day. What's that? I might just give that a little look. Boris, he's there again. Quarantine in Wisconsin. I wonder what's happening in Wisconsin. China, best. I'm not sure if that's in positive light. So let's look at this World Health Day. That's Philippines, Mabuhay Kayo, MMDA, United Nations. That's called World Health Day and every day. So if you're a content creator as a marketer, this is actually a great way to get content ideas. Obviously keeping on top of all of the news and keeping your customers informed is a great way to use this tool. Knowledge is power. Great. So that's kind of cool. Fight, quite a powerful word. I wonder what people are talking about here. I wonder if it's the fight against the coronavirus. Yeah, so there's I don't want to wait too long for these things, but you can kind of go through and spend some time on this chart and really get an understanding. These are the top 50 keywords out of 500 million keywords, out of 500 million posts. So these words are very important. Like, these words are describing a lot. This is really what the crisis is currently telling us. Let's look at the actual trend of mentions. So you can see here there's a big climb And this is March 13th. Actually, I remember that we talked about that last week. So I guess last week, what is it today? It's the 7th, so it's about the 31st when we last did this. So it's actually globally been declining, which is great, which is great. I mean, what if that's the peak? What if that is the peak of the social media crisis? There was a little after bump. Little, what was that? To know, a little after bump, maybe some more bad news. And then we're really just kind of hopefully it's going to keep declining. This is a huge number of mentions. Like this is 5 million in a day, almost 6 million in a day. Let's go back to how many, like 30 million for Apple. That's a million a day over a month. So this is 5 times the rate of Apple. Maybe if we can get it back down. Let's look into what, so that's the coronavirus as a whole. Let's look into the subtopics. So we've got testing here. Okay, maybe if we just look in the last week. So we've got hospitals declining. Talk about hospitals is declining. It's interesting. Testing in the orange is also declining. It's good that everything's declining. But you know, there's these little spikes that happen, and there could be a million reasons for those. And again, I mean, you can drill in on these. I'm going to just open this one up and change it to influencer score. So, and this allows you to look into each of these spikes. We've got this big one here. I think there were so many announcements on March 13th. It was a Friday. It was a big day. Everyone around the world was going, oh my God, this happens, this happened. There were heaps of famous people that got coronavirus around that time. So that was definitely a big spike. We've got, if you look down the bottom, there's these color coded. So quarantine. Yeah, so that one, quarantine, people have been kind of maybe easing into it. Education, again, that big spike on all of these topics, pretty much. Sick, job loss. So you can see here, actually, there's a spike. Let's remove the other ones. The thing is, as you go into this, you've got so much data within each of these. Like this is job loss global. Like this is 1.1 million people talking about job losses. It spiked on the 3rd of April, and that would be multiple countries that culminate in creating that spike. That's not just one little job loss news article. Maybe it's a big American scandal. Employers cut 701,000 jobs in March, and the unemployment rate rose to 4.4%. That's US. So there's big March job losses around April 3rd, end of the month. So they would have wrapped up the month, done their reporting, and gone, oh, we've got job losses. 6.6 million US citizens. This guy, US Navy aircraft carrier, lost his job for talking about an outbreak. I think we all heard about this one. He had a job loss. India COVID-19 lockdown means no food, no work for rural poor. Yeah, so and that's the thing is, you know, it's so hard to consume all of this news, right? We all watch the news. And you take in about 3 countries of stuff, and then you're done. You're like, that's too much. I can't handle it. So, and that's the thing is, there's so many different stories happening in here, and drilling down is really the challenge. So let's drill down, given that. So let's drill into Australia, and it's pretty much the same graph. So, and I just want to show you what Australia looks like. So this is last 30 days again, and you can see we've got 3.1 million out of 500 million. So that's a lot more reasonable. We're not like the biggest contributor. I think we'll see a bit later what the percentages versus. I am going to touch on that. Again, Twitter is leading the way in terms of where this conversation is happening. Hands up, who hasn't got a Twitter account for your business? You should always have a Twitter account for your business. Even if you personally don't like Twitter or are not on Twitter or think it's not popular or think it's declining, I really urge you to just get one, because if people are complaining about your brand and you're not there, it's kind of like you're just putting your head in the sand, like it's so important. There's so much conversation happening on Twitter and it's all publicly available. Similar conversations happening on Facebook, not available. But don't worry about that because you can't access it anyway. You can access this. And if you're not, it's just wasted data because you've got rich data on your brand here. So anyway, rant over. Sorry, guys, but I do see a lot of marketers in Australia specifically that are anti-Twitter, and you know who you are. So please get in Twitter. It's very open. Okay, great. So share of voice. So again, it's 93%. This is comparing the Google, Apple, the Gapple comparison. Maybe this will become a new precedent that will set. Who knows? But looking down at those guys, oh no, I haven't got them in here. Okay, I've changed a bit. So we've got our top words for Australia. So let's go in. Let's zoom in. See what Australia has to say about the coronavirus in the last 30 days. Great. I'm just going to change the influencer score. So it's only 3 million loading. A lot more than you'd ever need to use for any brand. All right. So what have we got here? We've got Johnson, Boris Johnson, I guess. Is that his name? Yeah, Boris Johnson is now in intensive care. Hope he really recovers. Like that would be terrible if anything happened. Powell made an appearance, I think 1 hour ago. I don't know how that's related to Corona. Oh, okay, it's because of coronavirus. So that's interesting. He is. I shouldn't comment on this webinar. I will leave that. Yeah, there's. What else is there? Free. What's free related to? You always get a little Trump. I think Trump kind of pops up in the commentary from Australian sources. Okay, coronavirus free live blog. Free live blog. Free to disembark. Who else heard about the Ruby Princess? It looks like this is going to a legal trial. Hundreds of free meals, a toilet paper fairy, an envelope stuffed with cash, and hundreds of free meals. Oh, that's very nice. Random acts of kindness. I think that's a really cool thing about this kind of situation. Maybe some of those things are where the positive sentiment comes from. You can see here this is marked as positive. So very cool. Free childcare. School care is free in Australia. So that was about 5 days ago. That's interesting. When was that? That was on the 2nd. Great. So we should see that hopefully in the spike, that free childcare announcement. Yeah, so you can kind of see a few things here. Death, not a fun word. Hope is here. I'll go to that next. I like a bit of hope. Safe. Justin, the first death from coronavirus. Okay, so that was the first one. That's very much the leading kind of article in terms of influence from 9 News. South Australia records first coronavirus death. Very sorry to hear that. Coronavirus death toll in New South Wales has risen to 21 with 3 new COVID-19 related deaths. 33 new cases. Yeah, so the nation's COVID death toll has risen to 41 after an aged care resident at a Sydney home died from the virus this afternoon. Yeah, sad news. Hope. Let's talk about hope. What is the hope? Show us the hope, social media. So one thing I really love about social media personally is that it is a reflection of what society is thinking. It's the only reflection that we really have. This is the data that we're seeing is the perception of the people. It's untethered. It's not biased. This isn't a survey to say, how do you feel? This is people honestly telling. And this is enough data that we've got this data set that we can now go, this is what the public feels. All right, so let's look at the hope. Okay, coronavirus deaths in US have now passed 10,000, but there is now a glimmer of hope. Europe's coronavirus numbers offer hope. Organizers ICC 20 World Cup later this year considering contingency plans they hope will never be needed. I hope we do them justice. It is our great hope, a vaccine for COVID-19. Yeah, so I mean, this is everything you ever needed to know about coronavirus, um, and what people are saying about it, and what are the top things people are saying about it. Um, Great. So let's just look into this. So I think just remembering what we said. So let's take out all that volume. Let's take out testing. Education, I think, is where we have childcare. So quarantine, Corona Hospital. There's a little spike there. I might leave that one there. Retail, self-isolation, job loss. Okay, I'll leave that one there. Okay. So e-commerce down the bottom. Yeah, this one I put in because I'm trying to monitor if there is a rise in e-commerce discussions over time. And there may be, I need to look at it probably with a more macro lens. But let's look at these two. So we've got hospital visits. I just want to zoom in. And this is great. The way we used to do this analysis was so much more manual than this. It used to take hours and hours to do this with the older version of this tool, Radian 6. And the tools just become so easy that I can quickly kind of zoom in and be like, what's going on? Done. Whereas this would take a kind of few hours to go through data analysis and compare numbers and be like, yes, that's the number. So Bondi Beach has opened, oh wait, let me just check. So that's previously shown me on the most recent, which is great. I do want to see that, but here we go. Okay, so this one, we're looking at hospitals, just this little spike. Boris is in hospital. SA, South Australia confirms 2 new corona cases as major hospital receives bed capacity boost. Yay. Okay, he's Boris again. How's he? Okay, I don't really want to watch that, but I want to see his face though, see how he looks. Poor guy. I feel terrible for him. Live news, Boris. Okay. Uh, New testing clinic. So we're also listening for clinic as one of the hospital related keywords. Boris, yeah, okay. So there's a lot of Boris going to hospital. Maybe that's the cause of the spike. Lots of talk about him. Let's look into job loss. So I want to just zoom into the last few spikes. So this is March 26. This is something that's so near and dear to everyone's hearts. Okay, US, Virgin Australia will make all pilots at its budget. Tiger Air redundant as part of a round of layoffs. 1,000 workers. Coronavirus, US, California. 1 million people file for unemployment. But you can see here that's gardening Australia. That's why it's come up in Australia. Fares, PM's coronavirus welfare plan will see Australia's unemployment rate skyrocket. What am I supposed to do? COVID-19 sparks mass unemployment across US. Okay, US. Centrelink being overloaded by newly unemployed people. This is how you can try and make a coronavirus claim. Great, so that's good information. 9 News is shared. Let's go into this one, April 3rd. A little spike. So you can kind of see here every day is like 500. Like if you look at an average across the last 30 days, you'd say it's probably about 500, maybe like 500 or 600. So really this one is almost double the last 30-day average. What have we got? Jobless, okay, US economy, tens of thousands of Aussies suddenly out of work because of the coronavirus. Many are looking for new ways to earn a living. For some, it's required learning completely new skills for a job they've never done before. Unemployment spiking and the economy grinding to a halt. A lot of Aussies are as worried about paying the rent as they are about COVID-19. Yeah, sleepless nights. It's yeah, it's not so rosy. More than 6 million Americans. The eye-watering rate of unemployment as a result of coronavirus has stunned even the more dire of economists' forecasts. More than 6.65 million people in the US have filed 4 days ago. 10 million Americans have filed for unemployment. Yeah, so it's just bad news all around. I think the other thing to consider is this is not a cumulative graph. This is a day by day. So while it looks like it's declining, you could say, oh, there's a downward trend since March 26 until now, but that's like a week and a half, which you could say is a long time in this crisis as well. But you could also say if this was cumulative, then it would just be growing at a an increasing rate, at a slower rate of increase, if I've gotten that correct. So, okay, so that's that graph. Again, we've got our sentiment. So remembering back to what we saw globally, we saw, I think 30% positive, we saw 40% negative, and in Australia, we actually see a higher amount of negativity. So that's a very interesting little difference. Let's just double check that. What was it? And yeah, 42%. Australians are 6% more negative about coronavirus than the world on average. Take take that fact home. So, okay, let's look into the individual topics. So horizontally, you can kind of see this is a row. We've got testing as a topic, 156. It's one of the bigger topics. We can see here the word cloud for testing. Aboriginal, there you go, Aboriginal. That's a big concern for a lot of people. Pneumonia, PPE, deteriorating. What that's talking about. Let's look into the trend line. So you can see here there's a negative spike on March 13th. We've already covered the 13th. Like we know that was a big day for everyone. And then since then, it's kind of trickled and thankfully declining. Little negative spike here. Yeah, it's so interesting. I could spend days just going through the social data, and then you've got new data that comes in in a like next month or next week. Okay, great. So this is really, I guess, Boris has tested positive. That's probably created quite a big spike. Queensland company has created a revolutionary COVID-19 test that will allow patients to be tested and get their results at the same time. Wow. Okay, I don't want to watch that. Wow, that's cool. That's 11 days ago. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I think that's the answer, though. I mean, once we've got home testing, then it's going to be very easy to control this. But until then, it's a hidden virus. All right, let's jump back. So there's a few things around here. ICU, 24 hours, lack. I'm sure that's talking about the lack of testing. Um, let's look down at education. Education is a very interesting subject with so many international students displaced, so many universities that are dependent on those people flying in and doing that work, studying here. So many communities that also expect to have those international students spending money. There's a lot of bad stuff. What's going on here? Agreed. Who's agreed? What have they agreed? And so keep in mind, these are again the top 50 keywords related to education keywords over the last 30 days. If there's any other topics you guys want to hear about for the next time or want me to drill into further, just ask me in the questions and I'll make sure I add it to the next one because there's so many things that we can listen to. So what is this? Agreed to cancel the assessment. Good on you. Let them off their test. Australian students will be spared. I don't know what NAPLAN testing is, but I assume it's hard. I don't know. We agreed to cooperate. This is spoke on phone to Scotty ScoMo of Australia. We agreed to cooperate against COVID-19, including thorough, I imagine, collaborative research. PM Morrison assured me about well-being of vibrant Indian community, including students in Australia. Great. Okay, cool. That's the thing. There's a lot of displaced people. There's a lot of even backpackers that are kind of here. A lot of students that are stuck here, can't go home. We've got face masks. You can see all the green This all means that it's an increase from the previous period. So the topic's been just going up. Job losses. Let's just zoom into this one for a bit. We've kind of looked into the into the trend line. Let's look into the word cloud. All right, what have we got here? So U.S. Navy captain. That's a big story. All right, a lot of U.S. I think the US are pretty affected by this job losses, aren't they? Scott Morrison has foreshadowed further income support and wage subsidies. Aged care sector targets coronavirus unemployed to help in battle to protect elderly. That's a good angle. I was worried about aged care. You know, they're really vulnerable at this time, and they already weren't in a great position before. You know, there was a lot of mistreatment happening, and yeah, I hope there's a lot more care given to that sector. Yeah, so I mean, you can see here job losses. There's probably a lot of emotion in job losses. Military, I wonder what military have to do with it. Government fended lives, a lot of emotional words. Oh, okay, that's around the fired person. Okay. Lost. Okay, lost jobs. Contagion. Who's Crozier? Why is Crozier so popular with job losses? So it's really good. I mean, the thing oh, Brett Crozier, I should have picked that up before. All right, let's jump out of job losses. Yeah, so there's so many things to look at. Let's jump across into a 48-hour view. So this is 101,000 mentions in Australia in the last 48 hours. So that was the last 30 days before. This is really what's happening now. And just jumping in here again. So very recently, this is what we have to look at. And it's just finding the right words. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Funeral homes in New York are in crisis. Samsung sees stable Q1 profits. Woohoo! The coronavirus pandemic could leave an economic impact, including higher wages and lower interest rates, for decades. Not good news. Today, for the first time, federal government will release the modeling behind its response to the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, super interesting. Police. So it's going to be interesting to see how the escalation of the lockouts proceed, how the interpretation of the law is handled, how each state handles it differently. It's going to be very interesting. Police keep finding people. I heard about a girl last night who was she's learning to drive with her mum and she got fined. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what opinion I should even have on that. But oh, here we go. Here we go. This poor girl, $1,600 learning to drive with her mum. You know, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess it's up to the discretion of the police, really. But it's good to know that there are consequences, I guess, and it's good to know that otherwise it wouldn't be followed, right, unless they didn't enforce it. So, a man who coughed on a Bondi police officer. Oh, wow, a violent arrest. That's crazy. So, all right, let's jump out of that. Share of voice trend. This is cool when you look at it on a 48-hour perspective because you have these dips when people go to sleep, but you still have an active population of people tweeting, which is really cool. I mean, is it cool? I don't know. But you've got these kind of dips. So around 8 a.m., 7, 6, 7, 8, people start waking up and then it drops. They kind of have their morning tweet, like, this is what I think for the day. And then they drop off, have a little nap around 2, and then come back online, have another tweet. And then they drop off, have dinner with the fam bam. And then 9 p.m. they're back on again. And then they drop and, you know, go to bed. Maybe Most people around 10, 11 stopped tweeting. These guys are still an active 1 a.m. crew up. These guys are all tweeting around the world. This is Australia only, and 5 a.m. these guys first wake up and join the 4 a.m. bunch who have been up all night. What are they up to? And just having a little look into kind of those chats. I wonder if there's any one chat that happens a lot at night. What is that? So we've got the highest is probably the orange. What's orange? Orange is testing. People talk about testing at 4 a.m. A lot actually, and if you look at where else? Yeah, testing again at the other 3, 4, then hospitals, and then quarantine. Those are the top topics going on Twitter at 4 in the morning, guys, if you want to participate. Um, but it's really interesting because you can kind of, this is just visualizing the data. And the good thing is once you've kind of visualized it, you can think about how any topic is discussed or interpreted online because they all follow the same thing. They all have these keywords. You can see a volume, you can see where the conversations happen. And you can see the unfolding sentiment of the drama, which is what I really love. Yeah, so I'm probably I won't go into any more detail on these ones. You can see there's that little April 7th actually a little spike at 8 a.m. for job losses. Coronavirus has exposed the fragility of our society. So dramatic. Intensely physically interactive, yet psychologically increasingly detached. Okay, the woke bloke. 16% of the university workforce could be lost. 21,000 full-time jobs over the next 6 months, with another major round of job losses likely to follow. So, and everything that you find here, you can go into, like you can get into it, find the post, and you can really have a look and see what's going on. Great. So, going out of here, and we are going to dig in and go to the workbenches. So the workbench is another part of Analyze. It's it's actually designed on how Radian 6 used to be. So the way they've built it is actually built on Radian 6, and it was really important they migrated this feature across because this is how you do the deep analytics around the massive data sets. So if we look here, I've already preloaded the data. It takes a little bit of time. I've preloaded 311 million records. There's 11 million posts. So remember we looked at the previous dashboard and there were 500 and something million. The reason there's less is because I've excluded non-English speaking languages because it's just there's no value for me right now. And that's all. So aside from that, it's the same data. It's just there's a lot in foreign languages. You can see here there's the big trend and spike, and it's almost. Can you guys see that trend? Can you see it as well? Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can see this little cool weekly trend. I mean, it's not cool, but it's a trend nonetheless. So one thing to draw out of this is you actually have a little dip in activity on the weekend on social. As we go down, I'm gonna actually just oh no, I'll go down. Okay, so this is the last top 50 keywords. We've looked into this. Something that we can do from here, and this is the whole kind of value of this dashboard, is to start kind of drilling in to what people are saying and where things are being said. So I'm going to, what's an interesting word? Secretary, the real Donald Trump, not him. World Health Day. Okay. Oh, okay, this one, this one. So this is a really interesting topic. I actually found out, thank you for my audience last time who informed me, I think this is a treatment for it or something. So what we can do with this is we can start to say, okay, tell us more about this data set. I can start drilling down. So I can now say, okay, what's the age group and gender of people that care about this who actually cares about it? Let's also look at the countries where this is being talked about. Um, and aside from that, I want to find out what people are saying about it at its peak. So I'm going to put in a volume trend. I could do a sentiment trend, but I'm going to do a volume trend. And then I'm going to find out where the peak is. Boom. Oh, wow, there's a recent peak on this, April 6th, yesterday. So that's been the peak of the 30 days. So that's quite a considerable thing. I mean, what's going on? I can look into these three as well, and I can. Let me do that. Okay, let's look into the top words for this one. We're going to look into the top words for this one. This is unscripted, by the way. I haven't done like check this to see if it'll make sense. So if it doesn't make any sense what I find, then you can blame me. All right, final one is top words. Wow, there's a lot of medical words there. Treatment, drugs, treatment. It's getting quite small. I think there's president in here as well. Trump. You've got these kind of, a lot of it's like also caused by uh, by the media or by government saying, oh, we've found something, that will always cause a big spike because they've got such a big audience and all the media agencies pick up on it. Fauci, interesting. President, doctors, cure. Okay, let's look at this. What's it saying? What am I going to look at? Hashtags. See what the hashtags are saying. Maybe I actually just want to drill in now and inspect. So this tool, what I'm doing is just a typical analysis. I'm just freeballing here in the workbench, trying to find some insights. The dashboards that I was showing before are really dashboards that you configure with no code. It's all clicks. You configure them. You have them ready. You can refresh them. You can copy them and change settings, rename them. Okay, malaria. Yes. Okay, so this hydroxychloroquine, if I'm saying that correctly, is a malaria drug, and it is being considered for use in treatment. Effective. Great. What does this say? So, we may have just uncovered the cure for the coronavirus right now on this webinar. I mean, maybe we've just found it, It's not necessarily me, but maybe. Doctor and CEO of medical clinic in LA saying he's seeing effective results using that thing combined with zinc. Okay, I did see zinc there. Zinc combined with zinc. We found the cure, guys, one day ago, and you guys are seeing it for the first time on this webinar. Pretty much the world found the cure. So again, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but the fact is, I was able to kind of see something. I was like, oh yeah, I know people have been talking about this as a cure. Drilled into it. Whoa, big spike. Whoa, it's the cure, guys. Let's hope it's the cure, but who knows? I think they've got a test. So just going down a little bit, running out of time here actually, so I've got to wrap up. So here are the top hashtags. COVID-19 is a top hashtag used. Coronavirus next. World Health Day is also the next in the last 30 days. Hashtag COVID_19, hashtag COVID, hashtag stay home. Trump doesn't appear in this one. He appeared in my last top hashtag, so he's got to work on his hashtag, I think. Then we've got age, so 35 to 44, 25, 45. So it's really like 25 to, actually 64 in there as well. This group, this top four, which is most of them, are really the most active. The other thing to consider, 55 to 64, imagine what percentage of those people are actually on Twitter. And then look at this volume. So the number of people that are active in this age group on this topic online is I think, quite unprecedented. 21, 24, 18, you guys need to talk more about this. And 65 plus, they're just not really on there. You can also see, I think this is hashtags for 21 to 24 versus hashtags for 55 to 64. You can see they're talking about the cure at the top, the number 3. These guys are talking about the cure at number like 6 or 7. Very interesting. These guys want the cure. Give us the cure. We can see overall slightly more female demographic than male. And oh, this is really interesting, is the countries. So you can see here that this is it's really hard to group them or to use this as kind of evidence. United States is United States and all of Facebook. So all Facebook posts globally are considered United States in origin. So that's the thing to consider here, is there's a bit of silly data here. Also unknown equals Instagram and unknown, but mostly Instagram. So there's a whole lot of Instagram. We just don't know the country because it doesn't come through the API. But what we do know is these ones. So we do know UK is, aside from the US, is leading the way in terms of people talking about coronavirus. India is next, which is very concerning, large population, but very concerning that they're also up there. Canada also, number 5, Nigeria, number 6, that is worrying. I don't see Nigeria on the news very much, so this is all just coming straight through social media from the people in Nigeria. Australia is at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1% of the global mentions is Australia, 3 million. Malaysia next, South Africa, Philippines, near and dear to my heart, is next after Pakistan. And scrolling down, I just want to find New Zealand where my parents are. Okay, they're at 0.1%, so that's good. Yeah, so hopefully every country just really works hard to kind of do their thing. You can see here there's a over time look. Great, so I am going to stop here because I've talked enough, and I want to just open it up for any questions, if there are any questions from the audience, or any requests for next week. Same time, same place. While I'm waiting for questions to come in, just having a quick look down here. Yeah, so it's good. It's not growing. It's relatively flat. Great. Just, I guess, to wrap up, if you do have Social Studio, what you should do immediately is really listen in for your brand and the Corona as a topic in comparison, so that you get all mentions, you can track everything. Really set up your publishing and your engagement so that you're specifically managing this. You've got publish macros for Corona. You've also got an engagement console set up to listen for mentions of your brand with Corona, and start leveraging the real-time reporting feature and the PDF reporting feature in Social Studio, because they're really easy to set up, and you can set up automated reporting to any of your teammates on when anything is mentioned about your brand and coronavirus. For those that are availing of the free Social Studio care package from Salesforce, AF Digital also have a corresponding free implementation, which is usually valued at $2,500, and that's to get you set up very quickly with listening, engagement, and publishing around the Corona crisis.